So there's a game I've actually been wanting to talk about for a long time, and actually, first of all, I wanted to say if anyone's actually followed me from my Dust 514 review a few months back, I know I said I was going to try and get a few more reviews out there, but school and work kind of hindered me. But there is one game that's been on my mind for quite a few months. If you've played it, you know. I don't even know where to begin with this game. I love it, and I despise it. I want to break this damn game in half every single time that I play it. But I love it. I keep coming back to it. Again, if you played it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, what I'm doing is I'm just throwing together a little unscripted, quick review of my impressions of Dark Souls. So first, let's go back to Demon Souls. Demon Souls came out, I think, 2009, 2010. I know someone's probably going to correct me on this. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't hear that it was coming out, really. I saw a review one day. It looked interesting, so my friend and I ran down to GameStop and we grabbed it. We came home and played it. We thought it was okay. A lot of the difficulty in it just kind of seemed unfair. I think it's been a while, so I think that if you played it and you went undead in Demon Souls, you actually lost half your life, which just felt unfair. A lot of the boss battles really just kind of felt glitchy. I mean, it was a fun game. We played it for a little bit. The multiplayer was so-so. But we dropped it pretty quickly, and we jumped to, I think, White Knight Chronicles or something like that. But then it just kind of left my mind. And then I heard about Dark Souls coming out, and I really wasn't that enthusiastic about it because, I was looking more towards Skyrim. Skyrim was on the way out. So I grabbed that, and everyone was like, oh, dude, Dark Souls is so much better. You got to get it. I just was not interested. And then I hit a wall with Skyrim. I just completely dropped it. I was looking for another RPG to fill the time with, so I jumped to Dark Souls. I went and randomly picked it up one day with that same friend that I got Demon Souls with, and we started playing it. Oh my god, we immediately fell in love with this game. Just everything from the character creation to the level design, everything felt better about it. So, I guess I'll start off just with a basic story. This isn't really going to go into spoiler territory all that much. Basically, in Demon Souls, if I remember correctly, dragons wake up or something, and they start attacking the world, and they bring all these undead creatures with them. I don't know. It's contrived RPG type shit. You got your basic fantasy elements there. Start of Dark Souls. I think what happens is this group sort of comes together to basically combat the dragons, which is made up of Gwyn and his 4 knights. He's like king of the humans or something. I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't pay all that much attention to the storyline in this game. Then you have Seath the Scaleless, who's basically your albino dragon. I guess he's supposed to be. He's like a crystal dragon, but he basically betrays the other dragons and helps combat with this other group. And then you have Lord Nito, the Grave Lord, who's basically picture this giant skeleton wearing a robe made out of other skeletons. He's kind of weird. Who else? I think it's like the Witch of Islith or something, and her 4 daughters or something. They come together and help, and so all these people just come together and they take down the other dragons. So that kind of sets up the backstory for Dark Souls. And so your character is the chosen undead, and so it's kind of your destiny to overthrow Gwyn or something like that. The plot's kind of hard to follow, at least for me. Again, I know that people are going to correct me and say the plot's great, but for me it was just a little hard to follow. But that's not what I got attached to. I really got attached to the fact that most of my biggest problems with Demon Souls were gone. I couldn't stand the fact that in Demon Souls, everything was very zone-based, like you had 5 zones you warped into. I couldn't stand that. Also, the fact that Demon Souls felt really, really unpopulated. But Dark Souls, there's interaction all over the place. You run into people, you run into different vendors. I know Demon Souls had elements of that, but Dark Souls just does it so much more. So, those were just my initial thoughts. And then the difficulty kicked in. And here's where I'm going to jump into my pros and cons. I'm going to start with the cons on this one. I'd like to say, first of all, this doesn't mean I entirely despise this game. I would not give it a bad rating. It's just, if you've never played it and you plan on picking it up, you're going to get mad. You're going to get frustrated. And there's a good chance you might break something. In fact, if it's around here, this controller doesn't work right anymore. I'll get to that. So, first of all, um, let's start off with just a basic overview of the difficulty. Uh, this is probably my biggest complaint with the game, is the fact that the difficulty just feels unbearable at times. I mean, enemies are almost too brilliant. Like, they know exactly where to hit you through a wall. Like, they know exactly where you are, so they know exactly where to clip their weapons through a wall to hit you. Um, there are constantly times when you have to navigate very narrow-ass things. Often you'll just start glitching off the edge or something, so you just fall into the abyss. And of course, when that happens, you lose everything on your body in terms of how many souls you had, and you have to go back and get those. I guess I should explain souls. So, for those of you who don't know, in Dark Souls, everything is pretty much centered around souls. So when you kill something, you get a certain amount of souls. Think of it as a combination of currency and experience. It's lumped into one thing. So, like, imagine in World of Warcraft, your experience bar was also like your money belt. It's like you had to buy things with experience. So that's kind of how it works in Dark Souls. So as you're getting souls, you can either use it to buy new gear, or to upgrade what you already have, or to level up. It's actually a really cool system. The problem is, let's say you're walking around and you have like 30,000 souls on you. You know, it's not uncommon. And there gets to a point in the game where that's not that much. It's not even enough to get you like half a level, at least where I am right now, because I need about a little over 60,000 to level up, so 30,000 doesn't do me a whole lot of good. But there are a lot of times when 30,000 would be a hell of a lot. That's a lot of levels, or that's like upgrading the weapons and armor you've been carrying around for a while. And then if something kills you, oftentimes it's going to be pretty unfair. You die, and you go back to the last bonfire that you rested at. Everything you had on your body in terms of souls stays exactly where you died, and so you have to go back there and get it. If you get it back. Every bit of it. But if something else kills you on your way back there, it's gone. So, doesn't matter if you had 100, doesn't matter if you had 250,000, it's all gone. Never to be seen again. That right there is probably the moment which causes more fury and frustration than anything else. I don't even know where else to begin with the difficulty. It's one of those things like you have to experience it. The other thing that really gets to me are invaders. Now, I'm sure some of you guys are invaders, and you know, I'm sure it's fun for you guys, but I can't even express how unbearably frustrating it is. You're going along, you're playing, you know, you're alive. You can only get invaded when you're alive. So here's how it works. You're either alive or you're dead. And you become alive by resting on a bonfire and giving up another thing you accumulate called humanity. So you use a humanity and you become alive. While you're alive, you can summon other players to help you to take down bosses, or just, you know, just plink around, go exploring. You know, I do that with friends all the time. But while you're alive, you can also get invaded by other players. Now, how that works is, while you get invaded, you can still get attacked by enemies, but they can't. So basically, they can run straight through a wall of the toughest enemies in the game, and they won't get touched. But if you go near those enemies, they'll still attack you. So basically, they become just like the strongest thing in the game. They can spawn wherever the hell they want, and for some reason, the lag always seems to be in their favor. You're going to get backstabbed a lot, and it's going to be while you're facing someone that invaded you. So, you know, you're facing off someone, you got your shield up, and then all of a sudden, they're just going to clip and be behind you, and they're going to backstab you. Now, I understand the invasion mechanic, but I would like it a hell of a lot more if it actually worked properly. Again, I know it seems like I'm bashing on this game. I really like it. I actually have it up right now. But invasion is... It's so frustrating. But it can be satisfying. I've been invaded and kicked someone off an edge, like right as they spawned on me, and it was so damn satisfying. So I don't think the mechanic should be taken out. I just think it really needs to be fixed. The other problem I kind of have with it is there's no like proper multiplayer. And what I mean by that is, if you want to play with a friend, it's difficult but not impossible. So how it works is, your friend who's also playing, you know, he lays down his it's just called a summon sign, and it kind of moves through the many servers of the game. And so it like appears in this one for 10 seconds, then it moves on to the next one for 10 seconds, and it just kind of keeps cycling. And so if you're lucky, it'll cycle through your server, and you can grab it and you can summon them. So a lot of people, I see this all the time. People say you can't play with friends. Just don't even try. That's not true. That is absolutely not true. You can very much play with friends. I do it every single time I play this game. That's pretty much the only reason I bought this game, was to play it with a friend. And we do it all the time. We get on Skype and we start playing together. And, you know, it works. It works. It's just sometimes you have to wait like 20 minutes to summon each other. So it's like 20 minutes sitting in the same place, just waiting to summon them. And oftentimes what happens is you'll get like a summoning failed, that thing that pops up, which is bullshit. You know, it's just one of those unknown errors that you don't know why it didn't happen. It just didn't happen. And then, of course, once you summon him, you get invaded by someone who is a lot stronger than you and has geared themselves around specifically backstabbing people or just dropping an Inferno type spell, which just engulfs the entire area with fire. So there's just so many elements in this game which just seem to be designed to frustrate you. But anyways, my biggest thing is like they have the option to play with your friends and stuff, but it's not quite geared for that. But I feel like it should be. Like, the ability is there, but they just didn't develop it enough. I know a lot of people say, you know, this is a solo game, you're supposed to enjoy it on your own, you're supposed to be the chosen undead, but you can still summon other people. Like, that's my biggest argument, is if the ability to summon friends is there, it should be focused on. That's just my thing. The other big thing is, like, it's just a minor thing, but clipping and hit detection. You know, like I said, you can stab through walls, which can be to your benefit. You know, if you know where an enemy is, you can stab them, but they can do the same to you. And if you're going to be an archer, if you're going to use your bow, be prepared to see your arrows stick into nothing a lot of the times. Like, you'll be fighting something across a room, and you'll be standing behind something which is waist high, and your arrow will just stick into the invisible wall in front of you. And it's going to happen a lot. There are a lot of invisible walls in this game. You're going to break a controller, most likely. I said I was going to get to this. Basically, what had happened was... God, what situation was this? I think I was alive, and I was going after a boss, and on my way there, something snuck up on me and killed me. And... oh, wait, no. Okay, I was down in an area called Blighttown. If you've been to Blighttown, you know it sucks. So there's this one area of Blighttown where you basically have to maneuver across essentially a fallen tree. It's just a tree which has been turned into a bridge, and it feels like you're trying to walk across basically a slippery tube. If you're not walking down the dead center of this thing, you're gonna fall off. So I was going across it, trying to get to something on the other side, and I fall off. I make it back there to get my, I think it was like 27,000 souls, but this was early on in the game, so that was a lot to me. Trying to get back there, I did get back there, I got my souls, but they were in the middle of the bridge, and I fell off again. So, I had to go back there again. Same thing happened. I got to my souls. I fell off. I go back again. This time I'm on an elevator on the way to that, and basically how this works is it's just like this elevator where like one side constantly goes down, the other one goes up, and they just kind of spin around like that. And so down in Blighttown there are these little firefly type mosquito bee type things that just like spray blood on you or something, and they just constantly respawn. Well, no, I guess they stop respawning after like 4 or 5 or something like that. Oh shit, my computer just turned off. That's not good. Okay, we're still recording. Anyways, so a lot of the times you're not going to notice them. They start flying at you very, very silently. So what had happened was I was waiting for the elevator to start going down, and wait, no. Yes, yeah, okay. I was waiting for the elevator to start going down, and I was on it, or I was waiting for it, and the little bee got like a foot above my head, and I started to walk forward. And because he was a foot above my head, that counted as clipping or something, and so I was basically walking into nothing. It was like essentially walking into a wall that didn't exist because this bee was a foot above my head. So it kept me from walking. And then he moves up, and then I walk forward because I was already pushing forward to walk onto the elevator. The elevator's already so far down that when I fall off the edge, I land on this part of the elevator, on the very far back edge of it, and slip off and fall and die. And that was a time where I actually grabbed my controller and squeezed it and then threw it at the ground. And I was Skyping with a friend and I said, dude, fuck it. I am done. Talk to you later. And I just clicked off my system. That's the only time I have ever had that kind of reaction to a game. I have played some incredibly frustrating games, and I have never had that kind of reaction. And I'm sorry, the sun is glaring in and making me look like a holy angel or something, so I will be right back. Okay. I hope that's a little bit better. Okay, that is. It's a little bit better. Where was I? Yeah, so breaking controller, you know, it's kind of possible. Other little minor complaints, you know, I mean, you create a character and you work on his aesthetics and you work on his face and stuff like that, but a lot of the time through the game you're going to be undead and your character just looks like cooked beef jerky. So like all that time you put into aesthetically working on your character is just kind of for naught. But I mean that's not really much of a complaint because the same thing happens in games like Skyrim where, like, you know, you make your character and you put all this detail into his face and then you just wear a full helmet. Oh, excuse me. But those are most of my cons with the game. You know, none of them really make the game unplayable. There's enough there that it just feels really, really frustrating. But at the same time, that level of frustration also makes for a huge amount of satisfaction when things actually go right. You know, when you finally take down that boss you've been working on for like 8 or 9 tries, you finally take him down. You feel so good. You finally got past him. Or, you know, there's a section which just has like some ridiculous jumping puzzle. You know, you finally get past it. You feel great. You get to a bonfire on the other side. Your progress is saved. You feel so good. So that level of satisfaction actually makes this a fantastic game. So, which leads me to my first pro for this game, the difficulty. The difficulty is so satisfying to overcome. I mean, most games these days, they're just, you know, walk to checkpoint, walk to checkpoint, walk to checkpoint, shoot a few things along the way, you know, maybe some grenade will hit you or something like that. Games just seem so geared towards, like, younger audiences and just ease of access, stuff like that. I'm not bashing on games. I'm a video game fanatic. I mean, if you saw my video game collection, it would be I'm a huge nerd. Who knows? Maybe I'll go through it someday. Anyways, I love all video games, but the level of difficulty in Dark Souls is phenomenal. So because of that, I really think it's something that needs to be played, understood, and you need to try it for yourself, and you need to realize that it's one of those times where the difficulty is so satisfying to overcome. The other thing is this game has some amazing replay value. It, of course, has New Game Plus, and then I think like New Game Plus Plus, and so on and so forth. So every time you beat the game, you get to start over and play it again, and everything's harder, but you have all the stuff you had with your character, and I think you have the same level. I still haven't done it yet. But that makes for some amazing replay value. Also, there's the fact that it gets to a certain point in the game where, like, you start gearing your character towards a certain path, like spellcasting. You know, if you start gearing yourself towards spellcasting, you might as well just completely forget ever getting your strength up to certain levels to be able to use, like, big-ass hammers and swords like that. It can happen, but you wouldn't really want to go for that. You kind of want to just keep gearing yourself towards being a spellcaster. So because of that, you have a lot of incentive to make new characters. And, like, okay, I want to make a barbarian class this time, or I want to make a spellcaster or a healer. So there's a lot of incentive, and you keep wanting to keep those characters going because there's a lot of stuff at the end of the game geared towards, like, specialty classes. Like, you know, there's big-ass swords and hammers and stuff like that for the strength classes. You know, you got these amazing wands and catalysts for the spellcasters, which you can only have, like, if you have certain levels and requirements. The only thing that you can kind of do with any character is pyromancy. There's no real requirement for any of the spells. In fact, I don't think no, pyromancy spells don't actually have any requirements, and they don't get any benefits from your stats. Now, what that means is, like, intelligence requirement spells, they get a bonus from your intelligence. So basically, the higher your intelligence is, the more damage you're going to do with your spells. That's not the case with pyromancy. So you can be, like, an all-out war-driven barbarian who just uses like a giant two-handed axe or something like that, who also does pyromancy. So that's the cool thing. It's like there's always a spell which is going to be available to you. You just have to have something called a pyromancy flame in one of your like equipment slots. So stuff like that just really makes it a really, really high replay value game. There's oh my god, there is stuff hidden all over this game for you to discover. There's weapons, there's armor, there's rings and stuff that you can very, very easily go by. There's all these uh, there's all these bosses and enemies you can just completely walk by and ignore. Uh, I think my friend and I added it up. I think there's about like 4 or 5 bosses in the game that you can just completely walk by and ignore if you have certain items. But because of that, it gives you incentive to fight them again when you're doing New Game Plus or when you make a new character. I never took down the Capra Demon. I want to go fight him this time. He's an asshole, by the way. You're gonna love fighting him. What else was there? I do have a little checklist right here. Oh god, my biggest complaint, as I said, with Demon Souls was everything was very zone oriented. So I mean, you got to a certain point where like you beat a boss in a zone and then you moved on to the next boss. Like the area just kept getting deeper and deeper. But all the areas, there were 5 of them, were not connected. You had to go back to like a central hub. I'm okay with that in certain games. I just didn't think it worked very well for Demon Souls. Dark Souls, everything is connected. Everything is this one giant world, and you can move from one area of the map to the other. There are certain transition parts where like you activate this one giant ring, and then these 2 winged demons come down and pick you up and move you up to this big city. But that's pretty much it. Everything else, you can go down to the lowest depths of the game, or you can go down to the very top tower just in one transition, and it's amazing. And of course, later on when you unlock the ability to warp between bonfires, that makes traversing the world even easier. But everything is one connected world, and it feels amazing to explore it and find stuff that you didn't find before. Oh god, and the world is beautiful. I mean, I remember this one moment, I'm just coming out on top of this tower, and you just look out and you see huge cloud cover, but there are just these rays of sunlight just passing through the clouds. It looks amazing. It is such a stunning game to see. I mean, your character models look great. All the character models look great, actually. All the bosses just look detailed, and they're unique as hell. Oh my god, are they unique. Every single one of them, I keep looking up more and more about them. I look up their backstory, and aesthetically, they all just look awesome. I mean, some of them are pretty standard, like the Taurus Demon basically just looks like a big minotaur, but like there's Quelaag, which is this like absolutely stunningly beautiful woman from the upper half, and her bottom half is just like this hideous, grotesque spider monster. And it just looks amazing, and she's so fun to fight. That's the other thing. All the bosses are so unique. They have a really unique playstyle. There's all these unique strategies to fight them, and all of them you have to discover on your own. I mean, of course you can go online and look them up, but the fact is, every single one of them has like all these different strategies you can do for them. Some of them kind of have cheap tactics. There's always like the pillar you can hide behind that they can't hit you through, or something like that. And you can shoot arrows at them. So, I mean, there are little tricks like that you can find, and you might actually need them because some of the bosses are just absurdly difficult at times. But they're all so much fun, and every single time you beat them, you basically get something for beating them. Like, you get access to the ability to build a giant spear, or a piece of armor, or a shield. And, you always just keep wanting to drive yourself forward and beat the next boss, because you want to know what you're going to get, because there's always something. And I mean, it gets to the point also where like you start having choices of what you can make. Like certain things you drop from certain things. I can't talk today. Certain things that drop from them, you can just make one thing with. Other things, it kind of has to come down to a choice where like you can make a really good magic absorbing shield, or you can make a really good magic spear. So you just kind of have to think about it. You have to look stuff up. Like this is the time where you really have to start looking stuff up. You have to look online, like what you can make, what you need to make stuff, or what you need to make these special items. But I think this is really a game where I don't think you should follow walkthroughs for it, but I think online guidance isn't really a bad idea. The other thing is just like the worlds feel so populated with people. You're always running into vendors. You're always running into people with unique stories, and they want to help you. They want to lend you assistance with bosses. And so it just makes the world feel so populated. Even though it's this world of the undead and everything is trying to kill you, there's still all these NPCs you can run into. I mean, you have like this, I think there's 1 or 2 maybe little safe zones. The first one is the first place you go to, Firelink Shrine, after you do sort of the tutorial level, and you're going to come back there a lot. But it just kind of keeps getting more and more populated as you find people. So you find someone out in the world, you rescue them, you lend them an assistance with something, and then they come back to Firelink. And it just makes Firelink feel larger and larger. And then you find more people, and then they go into another safe zone, and then you can go and find them there, and they can become a vendor, they can become a friend, they can come and help you with bosses. So just the world feels really, really just well populated. I love that feeling. I hated Demon Souls because I felt like I was just myself, just going through dungeons, and there's just a bunch of skeletons. I didn't feel like I would really run into anybody. Every time I did, it just kind of felt like they were placed there just to make the world feel not... Oh, shit, my computer turned off again. Okay. It just kind of felt like they were placed there just to make the world feel not completely populated. Whereas this time... Or, excuse me, they were placed there just to make the world not feel completely desolate and empty. Whereas this time it feels like they were actually trying to make an effort to create sort of a community of people. I don't know, that's just my impressions with the game. God, what else can I say about this? God, you're going to feel some absolute terror in this game at times. Just, you know, at times when you're going up against something, you have no health left. You know, you have like 35,000 souls on you. You don't want to die because you have to navigate all the way back down to where you were and get your souls back and fight the same fight the same enemies that are trying to kill you. You know, there are times when you might drop your body and your souls right in the middle of a boss battle, and so you have to go into that boss battle again to get your souls back, and you're going to want to if you have a high enough payload on you. So that means, I mean, that boss which just decimated you before, if you want to get your souls back, you have to go in there and get your souls back and beat the boss. So, this game is just full of times when you're just filled with absolute terror, you're gripping the hell out of your control, you really get into it. With that said, I hate this game, and I love this game. And that's probably why I love this game the most, is because this game has never brought those kind of emotions out of me before. I've never despised a game so much for just having such high difficulty and just getting invaded over and over again. That's the other thing. You know, you might get invaded, and a little cheap tactic I do, which I don't mind doing, is just turn off your system or just quit the game really quick and then load back in, and then you'll get invaded right again. Or, you know, you'll get invaded and the guy will kill you, and then you'll come back to life, and you'll get invaded right over again. So it's just stuff like that just really, really gets to you and really makes this game sometimes unplayable, just given your current mental status. Yeah. The difficulty. It's going to hit you, and it's going to hit you hard. So just be ready for that. It's a game that I would highly, highly recommend, but only if, honestly, if you think you can handle it. You know, if you're someone who gets frustrated easily, like if you're playing Call of Duty and someone snipes you and you throw your controller and you go and have a little temper tantrum, I would not play Dark Souls. No. If you just kind of want an overview of like how the combat feels, the best way I've heard it described to me is just picture any RPG, you know, just going around slashing stuff, but the combat honestly feels like Zelda Ocarina of Time, which, you know, you wouldn't think that's not a very combat heavy game. It's a lot more about like exploration and getting items and stuff like that. But when you think about it, that's a game where pretty much every single time you're going to get into a sword fight, you lock onto something, you get your shield up, and you wait for an opportunity to attack. And you go and do your jump attack. That's exactly how Dark Souls is. Exactly. So that's pretty much how it is. It's like they took the combat of Zelda Ocarina of Time and they put it in just like a modern day RPG. And this game is just brutal because every single enemy has pretty much the same level of intelligence as you do. I mean, of course, there are times when like they walk off edges and stuff like that, but every single thing in this game pretty much wants you dead. And if you make the mistake of like attacking an NPC or something like that, they're going to want you dead too, and they're going to be hunting for you. So, Dark Souls. I love it. I hate it. I'm going to keep playing it until 4 days from now when Metal Gear Solid Revengeance comes out. And I'm going to probably give my first impressions on that because I've been looking forward to that for so damn long. As you can see, I'm actually wearing the shirt right now. So, yeah, look forward to getting more reviews out there. Hope you guys are all doing well, and have a great day.